All right, let's dive right in. We're talking about home coffee roasting today. Now, this is the final frontier for a lot of coffee lovers, but let's be honest, it is filled with some really complex choices. Our goal here is to cut right through all that noise and give you a clear map to find the perfect roaster for you. So, you have to ask the question, why is this hobby so tough to get into? You have this dream of the perfect custom roasted cup of coffee, but that dream often just smacks right into the reality of a smoke-filled kitchen, way too much complexity, and a surprisingly steep price tag. We're going to tackle all of those hurdles right now.
And to do that, we've broken it all down into 6 decision pillars. First, we'll talk about why you're doing this, the quest. Then we'll get into the core tech, air versus drum roasters. After that, we'll look at control. Are you a knobs person or a software person? Then we hit the practical realities, smoke, space, and cleanup. And of course, the budget. If you stick around to the end, we'll give you our top picks.
So really, why bother with all this hassle? Well, the answer comes down to one word, control. It's about taking that final, crucial step in the coffee chain and making that coffee truly 100% yours, from the green bean all the way to the cup.
And that right there, that is the core promise. If you've ever had a cup of coffee and thought, man, I wish this was just a little sweeter, or I wish it had less of that sharp bite, or maybe I just want a richer, fuller body, well, home roasting is exactly how you do it. You become the master of that flavor profile. Okay, this is your first huge decision, and it is a big one. You're either going with an air roaster or a drum roaster. And trust me, this isn't just some techie detail. This choice is going to fundamentally shape the character of every single coffee you roast from here on out.
So air roasters, like the fresh roast models you see everywhere, are all about convection. They basically blast a column of super hot air through the beans, making them float and roast really, really fast. Think of it like a jet engine for your coffee beans. This high-energy, quick process tends to bring out really clean, bright flavors.
A drum roaster, though, that's a totally different animal. In this case, the beans are tumbling around inside a hot metal drum. This means they're getting heat from 2 places: direct contact with that hot metal, that's conduction, and the hot air swirling around inside. It's a much slower, more gentle process, and that is absolutely key for developing a different set of flavors.
Now look at this, because it's fascinating how the tech directly translates to taste. The super-fast, all-air roast of an air roaster is amazing at preserving those delicate, bright, acidic notes from a coffee's origin. But the slower, dual-heat method of a drum roaster, that's where you build body, you build sweetness, and you get those rich, bold flavors that so many people crave. So here's the bottom line, and this is crucial. If your goal is rich, low-acidity coffee, the kind you want for a great espresso or a full-bodied French press, a drum roaster is almost always going to be the better choice. That extra time gives you so much more control to develop the flavor between the first and second crack, letting those sugars caramelize and build that deep, chocolatey profile you're probably looking for.
Okay, let's move on to our next pillar, control. So you've picked your technology, but how do you actually talk to the machine? This is where you see this huge split between what I'd call manual art and data-driven science.
On one side, you've got manual control, the knobs and dials. This is a very sensory experience. You're using your eyes, your ears, and your nose to guide the roast. It's very hands-on. On the other side, you've got software integration with programs like Artisan or Roast Time. This lets you track every single variable: temperature curves, fan speed, rate of rise, and then, here's the magic, you can repeat your best roasts with unbelievable precision.
And this quote from Wikipedia really just nails the trade-off, doesn't it? You can absolutely make fantastic coffee by hand. It's an art, it relies on your experience and your gut, but for the data nerd, the person who wants to analyze and tweak and perfect every single roast profile, software is, well, it's non-negotiable.
All right, we've covered the fun stuff. Now it is time for a serious reality check. Because even the greatest roaster in the world is totally useless if you can't actually use it in your home. So let's talk about the smoke, the counter space, and yes, the mess.
This table is basically your practical cheat sheet. And you can see right away, the range is just huge. The fresh roast? Tiny batches, easy to clean, but zero smoke control. None. The Be More has some built-in smoke suppression, which definitely helps. But then you jump to something like the Ilio Bullet, which can roast a massive 1-kilo batch, but it produces some serious smoke and absolutely requires dedicated ventilation.
So let's be crystal clear about this. All coffee roasting produces smoke, period. That term smoke suppression really just means smoke reduction. For serious machines like the Bullet, you have to think about ventilation as a primary feature, not some afterthought. Roasting in a garage or even outdoors is a very common solution. And don't forget the chaff. That papery stuff gets everywhere. And it's not just messy, it is flammable. Okay, this brings us to the final, and let's face it, often the most important pillar, your budget. But I want you to try and reframe this. Don't just think about how much the machine costs. Think about what you're actually buying in terms of data and precision and control. This chart tells a really powerful story. At the low end, you've got manual roasters like the Fresh Roast. Then in the middle, you have the Be More, which is cool because it can be modified to connect to software. But to get a machine that is built from the ground up for seamless, fully integrated data logging, look at that massive price jump to something like the Ilio Bullet.
Yeah, and that $3,000+ gap, that's what you're paying for. It is not just a brand name. You're paying for a super powerful induction heating element that gives you incredible temperature stability. You're paying for real-time infrared beam temperature probes. You're paying for a machine that is designed to work perfectly with its software right out of the box. And that stability, that's what lets you precisely nail those low acidity profiles again and again and again.
Okay, we have walked through all 6 pillars. Now it's time for the payoff. Based on our goal of creating low-acidity, full-bodied coffee with a real data-driven approach, here are our concrete, no-nonsense recommendations.
For your starter pick, we highly recommend the Be More 2000 AB+. It is a true drum roaster, so it's already perfect for the flavor profiles we've been talking about. It's got some smoke suppression, and critically, it gives you a path to start logging data by modifying it. It's the perfect entry point. Now, for the endgame pick, it has to be the Ilio Bullet. It is the prosumer standard for a reason. The precision you get from its induction heat, the incredible data from its software, the community behind it, it is simply the ultimate tool for perfecting your craft.
But you have to remember, even the best machine in the world is just a tool. As this quote points out, the real journey is in the feedback loop. You roast, you taste, you log the data, you make an adjustment, and you do it all over again. The right machine just makes that entire process way more precise and repeatable. So there you have it. Home roasting is definitely complex, but it is not impossible. It's all about taking control of that final, critical variable in your coffee journey. So the only question left is, are you ready to take that leap and finally master your perfect cup? Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.